Hello and welcome to my January reads and review. This is the first time I've done this, and sorry it took me a little bit long to get going. I was trying to figure out how to pin a message in the chat, which I've never done before. So again, sorry. My name is Danielle Forrest. I'm an alien romance author and YouTuber. And I read a lot of things like monster romance, alien romance, etc. But I occasionally delve into other things. A lot of the times, what I'm going to be talking about here is going to be romance or not quite romance, um, in some fashion. And the heat levels are going to vary between, or potentially going to vary between no heat and no plot, shall we say. So let's get started. So this is something I'm doing, so the format might be a little clunky. And feel free to let me know in the chat or the comments if there is anything I could do better, if there's anything that's hard to see or that you want to be able to see, just let me know. Again, this is new for me, so I'm just trying to figure out a way to do this that's going to make sense. All right, let's see. My plan was okay. Here we go. So I'm gonna be trying to manage all this from Goodreads, and so the first book on here that I have listed is "Seduced by the Swamp Creature" by Ivanna Schloppykoch, and I honestly love this author's name so much it's not even funny. Like, this is the type of name that just makes me want to start writing erotica just so I can have some fun, uh really terrible on the nose name like that. Like and oh, so this one was fun. It it was definitely romance. Oh shit, I didn't mean to do that. Back, and hopefully that wasn't so it was definitely romance. It was um a little light on plot, probably, but it worked. I loved this author's note here. The author had an author's note at the beginning of the book that said, "You know why you're here. You saw monster smut and came running." And I'm like, "Yeah, that actually tracks. That's true." Notes I had for this one were at one point they said, "Bless your heart," and I feel like the author probably isn't from the South. So I live in the Midwest now, but I spent 20 years in the South, and trust me when I say, um, bless your heart is a curse word. Um, is it's the equivalent of using an say an intellectual slur. It's like, oh, you're too stupid to live, but I'm too nice of a person to actually call you out on it, so I'm just gonna say bless your heart. That's bless your heart. It's simultaneously deriding the person you're talking to while pretending that you are the better person by not using a curse word, a proper curse word, which just ends up meaning that it's more of a curse word. And this is another example. This quote here: "I smiled sweetly at him and said, 'Bless your heart, you fumbled and someone else caught me.'" Yeah, and that is actually an appropriate way of using "bless your heart." Um, I don't remember too much about it because this was something I read at the beginning of the month, but it was fun. It was smutty and lots of novel, like, you know, definitely a monster, if that's what you're looking for. N Not a lot of human looks to him, so that was nice. And feel like it was a relatively short read. So, moving on to the next one. The next one is Found by the Lake Monster by Lillian Lark. Let's see. Do I have that one in here somewhere? And I do not see it. So I must not have had any that's fine. All right, let's pull it up here. So, all right. So Found by the Lake Monster by Lillian Lark. Lillian Lark, I like her stuff. So I had read, I think, almost all of her books that were in KU a while back. And then I came back and started reading some of her stuff that was paid, that I had to pay for. And this was, I can't remember if this was one of the newer KU ones or if it was one that I had to pay for, but it was definitely worth it. It's kind of a fun premise because she's looking for the lake monster, like investigation type thing, trying to prove he exists and all sorts of stuff like that. And he's waiting for his match through the matchmaker to show up. And so he's supposed to lead her back to his place. And she gets lost in the woods and ends up spending his heat with him, with her or whatever. Um, and so it's just kind of it's cute, and um there's this oh, she's hiding a secret. Is he gonna find out? Of course he's gonna find out. The other woman is gonna show up eventually. You've just got this like thing going on, like, oh my god, how long can this possibly last before he finds out? And then he does find out, and then how is this possibly gonna work out? Um and for fun, it involves nodding and avid position, which I'm all for those too. Um, those are those are fun ones. I enjoy them. I've it's like I feel like most of the time with avid position, it's mostly tentacle romance and stuff that I ended up seeing those with. But I like seeing it in my romance. But I really like Lillian Lark. I think they have some really fantastic romance, and if you like monster romance, definitely a good author to check out. Like I said, I have quite a few books that I had read by her. The next one being Stalked by the Kraken. Here we go. Let's see what my notes are for this one. So, all right. So, Stalked by the Kraken. If I remember correctly, Stalked by the Kraken is the matchmaker story. Yes. So this one involves the matchmaker from this entire series and a kraken who just like immediately knows that she's the one for him. And I definitely like this one. This one was a good one. Let's see what my notes say. So I got a quote here. I do know that there is a cephalopod that breaks off its penis and leaves it in the female. Is this common knowledge among romance authors in these genres? That's what my response was. I'm like, um, yes, I've actually put that in one of my stories. Trying to think which one. Shifting Loot. Shifting Loot has a situation where she is trying to entice her beau, the one that she wants to get down with, and she ends up with the wrong dick in her. Because there just so happened to be some sort of species that has detachable penises in the water that she was swimming in. Um, I just thought this was funny. I think it's basically just people who write in non-human romance probably have a tendency of looking up the following Google search, which is weirdest sexual anatomy. Um, probably, probably we all do it. Um, whether that's really weird penises or the strangest penises in nature, like we probably all do it because we're looking for something interesting to put in our books. And this one, this next comment, moving on. It's a gift, Gideon. That's still payment. I, I'm a little confused myself. Now I'm wondering. I responded, "What the fuck? A gift is not payment." And it's my, medical background that's getting me spazzed out a little bit because outside of context, my brain is going, yeah, actually, gifts are considered payment under certain laws. But I feel like this was probably like a, like looking back, I suspect this was probably something like it was supposed to be a like a mating gift or a courting gift or something like that, and she got all out of sorts or something like that. I think that's probably what it was. I didn't give myself enough context here. But all right, let's move on to the next comment. All the files for the auction are here. The owners of the store are the same people acting as auction hosts. A Mark and Jackson DeWitt. Oh, that was me. So Jackson is her ex, that she is, um, that kind of threw her for a loop. So she is a matchmaker who's always been very confident. She's a witch and she's a matchmaker. She's always been very confident about her abilities, her skills, and Jackson caused her to question her skills because it was the only time that she has failed with 100% match, something she, and it was with herself, her own match, and she was very upset about this. So this was a, oh no, Jackson's a bad guy type of thing. And anyway, the rest of the comments are just me like uh talking about like me like possibly spoiling things for you, and apologies for that. Me responding about, oh, the mystery of it, what's going on. So one of the things that's going on in the story is magic is being siphoned off of the bathhouse, which that's how they make money. um people can use the matchmaking service and they can use the bathhouse for free, but they have to basically sign something that says that they're willing to use they're willing to let them siphon sex magic off of them as they're engaging in activities, because and then they sell that magic to those who need it. So one of the plots of the story has to do with them trying to figure out why they're not collecting as much magic as they ordinarily would based upon what's their current business. um but overall, this was a really good book. I love a good kraken. um Anything involving tentacles I'm all about, so a story about a kraken is right up my alley. All right. Let's see what the next one is. Ensnared by the werewolf. Let's see. Here we go. Now this one is directly linked to the lake one. So this one is directly linked to Found by the Lake Monster. So, Ensnared by the Werewolf involves the woman who was matched to the lake monster in the other story, and it's basically happening parallel to that. And it involves a woman who had found her significant other, but he was cursed. And so she was trying to break his curse, but failed. And then him feeling like he couldn't be with her if he was cursed, ended up um walking away, even though they were perfect for each other. And so the story involves her kind of like giving up at first and deciding to go get matched to like basically as a consolation prize. Like she's never going to have her werewolf that she wanted, but maybe she can have some form of love. And so that's kind of the premise of the current events, but it goes a lot into the backstory of how things came about, how how they met, her trying to save him, failing, him walking away, etc., and then coming back into the present. All right, and my notes. I nod. We have the rest of our lives together. I just need to break Jack's curse. But the days pass, and I don't know how realistic breaking the curse is anymore. The cloud of disappointment and sadness over Jack seems to grow with every failure. And this is just me speculating. Maybe bonding with a mate is required to break it. Now, I'm not going to go into whether or not that's true or not. That would be spoilers. And uh, there is a significant surprise with regard to what his curse is and whether it can be broken or not. Um, so there's a significant portion of the story that's it can't be broken. She tries to break it, fails. We all know based just on the based on the blurb, the book description that she fails to break it. But what exactly his curse is, what it means, is something that's just not. Um, it's it's something that you should read to find out. It's interesting to find that out. Anyway, this one I think was a shorter one. I think it was probably like a novella, and it was fun. It was good. And like I said, I do like Lillian Lark. She writes some really good stuff, and I would recommend the series. It's I think it's called Monstrous Matches. It's the bathhouse stories, the love bathhouse is what it calls it, and I would highly recommend them. Moving on, we have Claimed by Cthulhu by Wendi Gogh. All right. Now this is a new author I have not read before. Um I don't think I've read a story where one of the characters is a Cthulhu. It feels more like something you'd read with erotica, like maybe a dark erotica or something like that, considering how twisted H.P. Lovecraft is. But surprisingly, this was a very fun and funny read. It was very lighthearted, even though it does touch on some potentially dark topics. Um, and I I really like this author. I'm looking forward to reading a lot of the rest of their stuff, and there's probably like 3 or 4 books, and the series is a bit weird because like on Amazon, if you look at them in order, they're not being released in order. It looks like it's kind of all over the place. There's probably about probably like maybe 3 books that are currently on pre-order. And so I just read another one of them that just came out with a few days ago. Sorry. I'm not sure if we're going to get to that one today. I don't remember if it was before or after the beginning of the month when I did that. So let's get through and go through my highlights and stuff. Suddenly he pauses, glancing over his shoulder back at Callie and me. Oh, and ladies, you were right. My brow furrows. About what? Monster cocks. I think this is the one that just made me laugh. I and unfortunately I don't remember the context again. They were oh no 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 no. I remember. So there was a speed dating thing about um dating monsters or something like that. Because in this world, monsters are kind of a normal thing. They exist. There's laws related to them, and etc. etc. And her friend is trying to drag her to a speed dating thing where you can potentially connect up with a monster. And she's maybe, I think she was probably talking something along the lines about how monsters have big cocks or something like that. And someone, I'm not sure who, probably like a bartender or a waiter. It was a waiter. That's right. It was like a Cyclops waiter or something like that. And he's like, and ladies, you were right about monster cock. He's eavesdropping. All right, the next one. And the next thing I know, the whole arm flops into my hand, going rigid. I'm shocked at how hard it is, as well as intrigued. So this is she's in this tide pool, and it's at night. She's a marine biologist, and she's doing some research. And so she's in this tide pool, and she thinks it's an octopus of some kind that has she thinks it's a type of octopus that's relatively friendly to humans and will sometimes allow humans to touch them. So she's kind of excited about being able to touch this octopus in the wild, and let's just say it's not an octopus. My comment was, that's his cock, isn't it? And yeah, it was. All right. Next one. What are you doing here? The same thing you are. Her face goes blank before surprise sweeps over her adorable faces. Looking for monster cock? She's so literal. I love it. I love it when the characters take things literally. I literally have a story I just finished reading, Rut Bar, which I'll get in if I do more videos like this, I'll get into it next month, because I just finished it in February. But one of the characters is very literal. Like, you have to be very careful with how you talk to him, because he will take everything literally, and it's just adorable because he's so adorable. Oh my god. But yeah, like I said, we can get into that next month if I keep doing these. Feel free to let me know in chat or comment if you want me to keep going on these videos. All right, next one. Aren't you at all a bit curious, my little scientist? If you leave with me, we can explore more from last night. We can conduct some experiments. Damn him! He's appealing to the nerd inside of me. I just thought that was funny. There's a lot of these, if they don't have any comments after it, it's just me laughing. But I don't have time to jerk off, so I do the next best thing. I yank my cock off, slam it into the top drawer of my dresser, and lock it. One thing I've learned over the years is that my cotillo, that's what he calls his cock, is very, very smart, and I'm not taking any chances of it getting loose. I wag a finger at the drawer. Behave! And this is later on. She's wondering why there's like rattling noises and banging noises upstairs. And he says, "This is just my pet. Don't worry about him. He can be kind of a dick sometimes when I lock him away." "Oh, do you need to check on him? Can I meet him?" "You can meet him another time." And he's okay, just a little excited. "Oh, next time. I love animals." This makes me snort. "Well, I'm sure this animal will adore you. Ready to go?" Oh, this was just a comment I like. It wasn't directly linked. So there was a few times where I did see a word used, and I even double checked like the dictionary definition of the word sometimes, where it's clear the person didn't use the word but didn't know what it meant. And I suspect this is like the first book in the series, so it's possible that, the person got better at editing over time. But that was just something I noticed. It was probably like 2 or 3 times in the book, and that's about it. Other than that, editing was actually really good. Next one. Signing. I thank her and take the package, wondering who it's from. Who else? Ugh, this is me. This is me being a lab geek and getting annoyed. He's in a laboratory, potentially with chemicals and all that sorts of stuff, and he's wearing sandals. Sandals! I just can't. That's... I'm sorry. If you are in a laboratory, you have to be wearing closed-toed and closed-heeled shoes. So if this is your foot, that's your heel, it's your toe, all of this is covered. You're supposed to cover as much skin as you possibly can, because if something gets on you, you don't want your skin to be exposed. You want to be able to take off a lab coat, take off gloves, etc. And you know the less time it takes, or the more time it takes for something dangerous to touch your skin, the better off you are. And so this just bugged me. Um, Even when I was in chemistry lab and I had back in college and I had a broken leg, I was wrapping like a plastic bag over my toes to protect it because you can't have open-toed shoes. And you know when you're wearing a cast, you don't have any choice. All right. I slipped the red box into my purse, which resembles something Mary Poppins would carry around. It's heavy enough that I doubt it's chocolate. Oh my God. Oh, I remember that. So this was a point where where something had happened and he had to run off, but he told her he'd left her a present on his desk. Now, this the monster character in here, as if you've already figured out, has a detachable penis. And when he is trying to be romantic and not focused on um, sexy times, he has a tendency of locking his dick away in order to focus on being good to her. Sometimes he'll even do it if he's like, he wants to focus on her pleasure and not his own or something like that. And so there's multiple times in the book where he locks his dick away somewhere so that it's not going to distract him. Um, he put it in a red box and then tied it up real tight. He'd had another present on his desk that was supposed to be for her, and she grabs the red box with his dick in it instead. Oh, Kea, and let's see the next one. So at this point, sh- she thinks, and so it ends up. Oh my God, you just got to read it. It's good. Uh, like she makes some assumptions when she opens the box. Let's just say, and creates a little bit of drama because of it. Um, Chaos picks his Kaus. That's his name. That's the monster's name, the Cthulhu. I forgot that for a second. Picks his cock up and I stare in fascination as it suctions back into place. This was just me nitpicking inconsistency. Every other time it every other time he has reattached it, it has overwhelmed him. And so I was kind of surprised when it didn't this time. Especially considering, if I remember correctly, this was like after she'd had like a after she had received it as a present. This was the first time getting it back on after that. And so presumably it would have had a lot of sensory input to update him on, shall we say. So this was like me being a little bit nitpicky, which I do. I'm pedantic. I can't help it. All right. The next few weeks are a whirlwind. Kaus and I perfect the serum that rewires the biological urge in Cthulhu to spawn. In doing so, we free them of the chains that shackle them to their ancient urges. Yeah, this was something, again, being nitpicky, because there was supposed to only be like a week until the next spawning, and they're like, oh, in the next few weeks. What? Hey Maria, ¿vas a dar su novio las buenas noticias? I've been trying to tell him, but he hasn't. Who keeps leaving these weird test sticks around the lab? Cow suddenly thunders, stomping into view, waving said weird test stick. Daniel's eyes bug. Is that a. Yep. Does he? Nope. So this is near the end of the book. She's trying to discreetly, as this puts, um, tell her boyfriend the good news. but he's a little dense and doesn't know what's going on. So he just like thinks she's just leaving random test strips around instead of pregnancy tests everywhere. It's kind of funny. Uh this last one. The investigator Minnie hired has nothing but wonderful things to say about the couple raising him, and I decided that's where he needs to be. See, this is something that kind of bugged me. So, this was a plot point in the story that has to do with her background. And it has to do with her giving up a child when she was very young. But the thing is, she didn't actually legally give up the child, and the child couldn't have been legally adopted, which means that this qualifies as kidnapping, which is illegal. Even if these are a good couple raising them, so to speak, it's still illegal. And that really kind of bothered me because this is something that, in theory, actually, like, if this is something that really happens, this is a major problem. It doesn't matter if these are a good couple because they still engaged in illegal actions. They still committed a crime that can get you decades in prison. It doesn't matter if they're good people. That just really bothered me at the end. But like overall, this was a really good story, and I ended up reading a lot more books in the series. I read everything that I had available to me at the time. All right. Honey Phillips cupcakes for my orc enemy. Let's see. Here we go. These are not in any particular order, unfortunately. All right. So this one, I've read a lot of Honey Phillips books, and this was kind of cute, but I think I wasn't really in the mood for this series. I might come back to it later. I'm not sure why I wasn't really in the mood. It wasn't a bad book. It was actually pretty good. But again, for whatever reason, I just wasn't in the mood. And maybe it was because it is fairly different from a lot of the other stuff that she's written. So most of the stuff I've read by Honey Phillips has been alien romance. So you have this series that she writes with Bex McLinn that involves, it's got some very dark undertones, is on another planet. Let's see. And that's a lot of the books that I've read by her recently. This is also fairly dark, or like it's alien conquest related. Um, let's see. Oh, I have not read a lot of their stuff. This one's about alien abduction. I've read a lot of the books in this series. They're very close to sneezing. Um, here more from that series. This one was fun. Again, alien romance, alien invasions. This one's about a minotaur. But it's a very different um from a lot of the rest of the stuff I've read by her. So I think that kind of threw me a little bit. So let's get into the story. Into my highlights. Moving the tent, he grunted, easily holding the tent in midair. This kind of bugged me because this is talking about like imagine you're at like a street festival or something like that, and you have all the like the tents lining the pop-up tents and stuff lining the edges and stuff. Um, Almost all of them are very lightweight. In actuality, they're so lightweight that you have to weigh them down. So usually I bring like barbells and various other weights. Some people will pour cement into like a water jug and use that as a way of weighing them down. They're super lightweight. Usually the only reason that you struggle with holding them up midair like that is because they're too tall. So, for example, for me to be able to lift one of these tents on my own, all it would take is lowering the legs a little bit. So if I lowered the legs, got in the middle, and then stood up with my hands above my head, I could move this no problem on my own without any issues. The only type that you can't do that with are so big that you even if you were strong enough to lift the entire thing, it would be too big and bulky and awkward to be able to actually balance it in the air. So my grandfather had one like this, and I've sat next to people who had them, and they take a massive amount of time to set up. They're usually the types of people who this is their full-time job. They're always doing these festivals, and yeah, like I just thought this was like this is definitely a situation where the person didn't do their research. They didn't know what they were doing. Sorry. And because that's just not how they are. This was something I thought was very funny. Like every time they argue, they end up kissing. That like throughout the entire book, that's basically what happened. It's like they're arguing. Next thing you know, they're kissing, and it was just kind of cute. All right, next highlight. She pointed at the oven behind him, and he finally noticed the smoke drifting from the vent. The cupcakes. He'd forgotten the fucking cupcakes. He turned off the oven and turned to find Alara sitting up on the counter, her shoulders shaking with laughter. This was very strange to me. And again, it's another one of those situations where it just feels like the author didn't know what they were doing and they didn't bother to do any research. So, if you're doing something like this, you are timing. You are using timers. You're using tons of timers most likely. And you also, if you run a bakery, a lot of times the oven is never turned off. Um, Depending on the type of oven, I feel like some types of ovens you'll have it where you have like separate compartments. Oh, sorry, I think I just hit the microphone. But you'll have like some separate compartments of the oven, like and each one could be set to a different temperature for different types of foods. But you don't turn the oven off. You leave it on as long as you're still cooking things, you keep the oven on. And you just keep taking things out and putting them in constantly as you're working. So this was just kind of like another one of those things where it's just kind of like, yeah, that's not how it works. And like I said, me being pedantic, I want people to get the details right. That's just all there is to it. Um, like I said, I am intrigued by this series. It is a series, Fairhaven Falls. I'm just not in the right. I wasn't in the right mood at the time for it, so we'll see about me maybe picking it up later. All right, next up, Stalked by the Alien Assassin by Tiffany Roberts. All right. So this one is the second book in a series, if I remember correctly. Let's see if I can find the first. All right. Eh, is it? There you go. Taken by the Alien Neighbor. So this is the first book I had read before. Actually, I've read all three books before. So yeah, this is a series I have read before, so this is getting into, and I do like good author. Definitely recommend. All right, this was Alien Assassin. So this one was kind of, how do I put it? It's one of those fun ones where, he tries to stay away for her own good because he sees himself as a danger to her, but in reality, him being close by is actually potentially keeps her safe because he can take care of himself and he can take care of her type of thing. So there's kind of that little dynamic there, which is can be fun for some people, maybe not for others. I think she did it really well here. So there is that. Let's get into the highlights. She was so fucking sweet, one corner of his mouth tilted up. I'll be there at 6. Okay, this was me again being pedantic. I have worked as a as a serving staff before, and I will tell you this. There's no way in God's green earth that they would ever let her take a break at 6 o'clock at night. I'm sorry. It's just not happening. In fact, when I was looking at what her schedule was, none of it made sense. Because it has her going in at 1 in the afternoon and then taking a break at 6. No, 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 no. Restaurants have weird schedules. That's not how they staff things. That has her arriving in the middle of the lunch shift and taking a break in the middle of the dinner shift. That would never happen. Realistically speaking, if she was working that type of shift, most likely she'd be coming in at 10 or 11 o'clock and then taking a break maybe 4-ish, 3. That way she's getting situated and she's raring to go before the lunch shift starts. And then she's taking her break and she's coming back from her break by the time the dinner rush starts. And that's like, if you're going to be hitting both lunch and dinner shift on your shift, which is not very usual, that's how it would end up being. You would be taking it, you'd be taking your breaks around the rush hour, the rush periods. And that was just something that just, as someone who's actually worked that, no, 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 no. I mean, I tended to work lunch shift. Like with the restaurant I worked lunch shift, and there were some people who worked dinner shift. And so I'd get there at like 10 in the morning and I'd work through the lunch shift. And generally speaking, I was gone by 5. Sometimes it was exactly 5. Like I was in like that last hour, I was weaning off of my tables and transitioning them to someone else. But this is just not how it's done ever. All right, next highlight. I just wanted to let you know that my shift is just about over, so Brandy will be taking over for me. She'll take good care of you. Also, not how it works. When I worked as a waitress, um, you stop accepting tables probably about 45 minutes before your shift ends. And that's if you're not closing. If you're closing, it's just miserable because you end up staying way, like at least the restaurant I worked, you end up spending like the last 2 hours of your shift doing nothing but cleaning the restaurant and working at $2 an hour, which is why I hated working dinner shift, because I would end up closing and that would destroy my hourly rate. Like I could make easily $15 an hour back in, like, I'm not even going to say when because that's just going to date me. But back when I was in college, I could make $15 an hour and it was like double the minimum wage if I was doing lunch shift. If I was doing dinner shift, it wasn't a fraction of that. But yeah, you don't transition tables to someone else unless it's an emergency. So like if you had to leave suddenly, then you would do that. If you suddenly got sick or hurt or something like that, then you would transition the tables. But if as long as it's just a normal, I'm leaving for the day, you just finish out your tables and you go. All right, next one. Fuck, you spilled that shit all over me. The man who'd grabbed her shoved his chair back from the table. His shirt and pants were soaked, and his expression was furious. This is me. He's furious that assaulting her caused her to spill something on him. Seriously? I just. Oh, that's smarts. Because there are people like that, and it's just too real, and that was a little bit too much realism in my fiction, and oh, there are people like that, and that really, there should not be people like that. Oh my god. Oh, next one. Thank you for tonight, Avery said when they pulled up in front of her apartment building. It was a perfect surprise. I couldn't remember it. This is me. I couldn't remember whether or not she told him where she lived at this point. All right. because he's been stalking her. It's in the name, you know, stalked by the alien assassin. So there's there's times where you're like, did he find that by stalking or did she tell him? And you're like trying to remember. That's just a little component of the story, honestly. He had a purpose on Earth, had a reason, a mission, and Avery wasn't part of it. He had a duty to protect humanity from aliens like Gregor, and he'd ignored it for too long. That's literally not his mission. She is. His mission is literally to find a mate and reproduce. That was the mission he was given. He doesn't, but he's an assassin. That's all he knows is how to be an assassin, and he just does not want to do that mission. So he's just been like basically pretending that his mission is to protect humanity from aliens this entire time. And it's just kind of funny. Like, no, no, that's not your mission, buddy. Your mission is to fuck. Oh, and this one just kind of tickled me a bit because it mentions Infinite City, which is. Let's see if I can find it. I'm just gonna open a new tab. All right. So that's like this series. I let's go with which they have some new covers, I think. I've read most of these books. I put this one down. This is a really long one at the moment. So this is one I've put down. I still have it listed as currently reading. Um oh, no wonder. It's I just realized it's the same author. No wonder. I was like, Infinite City, that's another one of her book series. That's what Jesus. I just made that connection. I'm an idiot. It's fine. All right. Next one. She knew so a little bit of crossover there. She knew she should have been running, that she should have been getting away while she could, that her life was in danger, but she couldn't shake the notion that she needed her glasses first. This is so relatable. It's not even funny. I literally had one time I was in a car accident and my car was totaled, all right? I was injured, my car was totaled. The only thing going through my mind was, where is my glasses? They're brand new. And yeah, you just have this weird logic when you like in situations like that. I just thought it was very funny and very relatable. Let's see, next one. Smirking, Avery turned a few of the items in the medicine cabinet so they were just slightly askew or backward and dropped a couple floss sticks into the drawer compartment that held the replacement razor blade heads. Oops. This is evil. This is like so mean. Oh my god, this is just like this is just cruel and unusual punishment, honestly. But he takes it very well when she does this, so it's okay. There's this me being nitpicky again. She calls a SUV a make when it's actually a make is actually your manufacturer. So you have make and model would be something like Mazda CX-5. Make is Mazda, CX-5 is the model. Um, this is more like a form factor or something along those lines. I don't remember what it's called, what you would call it, but it's a class of vehicle, not not a make. Just like I said, I'm pedantic, just fine. Let's see, next one. He just had to make it through the rest of the trip. An eternity passed. Universes were born, expanded and contracted, collapsing upon themselves and vanishing from existence. I just really like this line. This is a really good line. It's fantastic. This I just found strange. So it specifically mentions that she had just had her period like a few days ago, and I just found this strange because it seemed like everything was kind of rushed. Like she was only supposed to be there temporarily, but she brought tampons knowing that it was going to be like a month before she would need them. Did she really think she was going to be staying there? It was just very strange. This was me questioning because it's talking about rubbing against the fabric of his underwear. I feel like I remember it earlier from talking about how he doesn't wear it or something. So I don't know if that was just me like missing something or what, but whatever. Avery didn't understand why so many people despised Monopoly. I actually read something about, was it a reading or a video or something like that, about the origins of Monopoly. And Monopoly was specifically designed to be hated. It was designed to make people dislike the rental system, the landlord system. That was the whole point of Monopoly. It was to piss people off. So I just think it's kind of funny. Also, I refuse to play Monopoly with my brother, who is a total game shark. There's no winning with him, and if there's not a certain amount of chance in a game, I can't play with him. That's all there is to it. This was just her taking a really long time to think about Navy using some form of birth control. um, I canceled real plans for you, so the dinner invite will not be refused. You will come. Afterwards, she flippantly waved a hand in the hair. You can show us the apartment you've been staying in. No more hiding like a frightened little girl. This was just very strange. This is a conversation with her mom, so one of the dynamics in the story has to do with her estranged relationship with her mom. And this was just a very strange conversation because her mom is making all these demands, but realistically speaking, she could just say no, and there's nothing her mom could do. Literally nothing. And this was me nitpicking vehicle design, reinforced the passenger compartment with lightweight but incredibly strong velour and metal he wasn't necessarily supposed to have on hand. Um, as someone who is relatively familiar, at least conversationally, with vehicle design and the way that safety has evolved over time with vehicles, this is not a good thing. This would actually cause more damage to the passengers in an accident. Modern vehicles are designed to crumple. So they're designed to crumple at very strategic locations so that when there is an impact, the vehicle itself takes the impact and the passenger compartment is preserved and safe so that less of the inertia, less of the force goes to the people inside. And this just kind of like, okay, yeah, no, that's not how it works. Anyway, this was a longer book, which that's all of the comments I have. I have a lot more comments on this one than some of the others. Um, so this was a longer book. It took me a little bit longer, and it was good, but it was. I feel like it was starting to strain a little bit because it was longer. Um, I don't mind longer books, but sometimes they get to me a little bit. So there is that. All right. Not even gonna get started with this. Adrian invaded by tentacles. Invaded by aliens, a tentacle monster short by Adrian Blue. Like I said, I like tentacles. I like reading tentacle stories. So there is that. We're just gonna move on from that though, because there's nothing else to say. It's just smut. It's just smut. Um, so this was a story. This is not monster romance. It's not alien romance or anything like that. This is a step family romance type of thing, and it's. I'm not going to get into all these comments honestly with this one. Largely because it's not really the focus of my channel. There's 51 comments. I'm not going through all those. I didn't realize I did so many. Um, so this was one I think I've talked about on my channel on my probably on my productivity streams or something like that. But Credence by Penelope Douglas is, like I said, a step family romance. Um, and it was well written and a bit disappointing. So it was well written, well edited. I really liked the depth of the characters and the character evolution over time, but it was starting out leaning very much into kind of a reverse harem type of feel, and then it just decided not to go in that direction. And make it so one of the characters was really jealous and made it so the rest of them had to back off. And then to make matters worse, the one she ends up with is the one who has been actively abusive to her for a significant portion of the time. And while I do like the fact that one of his more toxic traits is something that he has to work at and fix before they can be together, I the resolution of the romance wasn't as satisfying because the author really started out leaning into something that they flipped it on its head and decided not to do, and I didn't like that. So not gonna go much further into that. Moving on. It's like Taken by the Tentacle by Carrie Hines. I think this is another one of those smut-tastic, short, tentacle related. Yep. Same with Tamed by Tentacles. We're not getting into that. Feared by Monsters by Leigh Kelsey. Let's see. Do we have anything? I do not see. All right. Oh, here we go. It's out of order. It's fine. Okay. So this one was a really cool idea. All right, let's go in and read the description for this one because um these monsters want to break me, but I'm going to tame them. So she is a so she is someone who is trained from a very early age to kill what's called shadowkind. They're monsters. And and but the thing is, her background, her history, it makes it so that being tied up and potentially tortured by monsters is actually something that's tame by comparison to what her family put her through, training her to be a monster killer. So um, they're they're how they treat her ends up being actually nice, and they end up loving each other, and it's just kind of funny. It's dark. There's a lot of very dark stuff in here, but it's good. I would definitely recommend this. Let's get into my highlights. I knew it was because I'd been trained to associate death with the absence of pain, to crave it, but I was powerless to fight my upbringing. This line of thinking always makes me really irritated. You're just lazy. You don't want to do the work that it's going to take to actually get over what you're dealing with, so you just claim you can't help it. It's not your fault. I get it, things were done to you because you have certain problems, but saying that you can't get over it is bullshit. No, you're not willing to do the hard work it's going to take, and it's going to take hard work, which means you're just lazy. All right. This was me getting a little bit frustrated. This was me getting irritated with I was powerless to fight my upbringing. Um, Now this sounds like a bit of a nasty rant. This is kind of a little bit of internal thoughts and not really cohesive because I was writing this on a tablet. But the point I was trying to get across was the fact that I've seen this before, and as someone who does struggle with things like upbringing and um, biological things that make it so that certain things are hard for me, um, I know how hard it can be to fight against your upbringing or your biology, etc. But to claim that you're powerless is admitting defeat before you've even tried. And that's exactly what I was irritated with here. Is that instead of trying to do the hard work of figuring herself out and figuring out how to overcome her issues, she's basically saying, there's nothing I can do. So why bother trying? And this kind of made me think of some people that I've known in the past. Um, I remember one person who would constantly complain about their life situation and their problems, and then you'd try to commiserate um, or try to help them, and every time you tried to offer a solution, it was, oh, that won't work, that won't work, that won't work, that won't work, over and over again. No trying to make it work. Not, I've tried that before. Sometimes it is, I've tried that. It would say things like, oh, I've done that before, or I can't afford that, or I can't do this. And some of it's like, you have to be lying. Because to have such a quick answer every single time, and the answers you have are so out of left field, so different from anyone else's experience, that it seems straight out of fiction. And like, that's not how most people, and the thing is, like, they would make all these claims, and then the next year I would interact with them again and they'd made changes. They had. So what they were saying was lies. They were able to make these improvements in their life. But if you actually tried to help them, they would claim that there was nothing that could be done, because they weren't trying to get it off their chest. They weren't trying to ask for help. They were trying to gain sympathy. And I, as someone who always wants to help, I never figure that out right away, you know? So it always frustrates me. I mean, I don't have a problem if someone says, like, listen, I'm not looking for solutions right now. I'm not. I just need to get it off my chest. I need to talk about it. That's fine. You know, I'm all for that. I understand that and wholeheartedly. Not sometimes you just need it someone's ear, you know? But this is one of those things, like, saying I'm not ready, or that I don't have the wherewithal right now to deal with this, is perfectly fine. You know, not everyone is in the right space, the right place in their life to deal with their problems. And sometimes the best thing you can do is just let it go until you're ready. But saying you're powerless is admitting defeat before you've even tried. And that's the part, that word right there, powerless. That's the part that really got me there. Anyway, moving on. I felt like I needed to explain myself at least a little bit there, and I apologize, but all right, moving on. You ate my boss, I blurted, staring at the navy skinned Shadowkind in true absolute shock. This just made me laugh. I don't know what this was associated with, but um this just made me like, just reading my comment made me laugh. Feels like playing The Sims and you keep spamming the flirt option. Oh my god. I have no idea what that was about, but I'm getting a chuckle out of it. Tell me and the knife goes away, he promised, sliding the flat side of the scalpel down my neck. His expression strangely gentle for a monster torturing me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. I can torture you in other ways. And this was me, so you can't torture someone with anticipation when they're used to someone following through every time. Anticipation becomes resignation. So this was me, so to give a little bit of backstory, she's used to being abused by her family. So content warnings all around on this book. Like I said, it's dark. She's used to being abused by her family. She was abused as a tool toward making her into a monster killer. And as such, there was no the idea of torture is probably something that she doesn't fully understand because the essential component of torture is the idea that you're building a relationship based upon a combination of rewarding good behavior and making someone fear bad behavior, um, anticipating the potential for the torture is where that comes in. That's the most efficient portion of the process, is that time between when the idea of torture is presented and when the actual damage is done. That time is where you can actually be effective. Once the damage is being done, though, it's too late to get your information essentially until the next cycle begins. Cuz I mean that's it's psychological manipulation. That's what torture is. Um but with someone like her who has experienced her situation is usually like, if you do this, then this will happen. And they always follow through. Her family, her trainers, etc., they always followed through. So if there's a knife out, it's going to be used on her. Yeah, that's all there is to it. If she has done something that could justify it, it's going to happen. There is no, there's no scrambling to try to prevent someone from doing bad deeds to her because she knows that they'll just do it. So it's like, yeah, torture's not likely going to work on someone who has been abused to that extent because they just accept the abuse at a certain point. Let's see. This is one I just have found funny. Then I'll make you a jacket out of their skin. Oh, gross. And thank you, but I'm already without a no. Here are you. You deserve it. You'll have it. You don't watch me like I'm a ticking time bomb or look like at me like I'm crazy. But you are crazy, I say, with a choked laugh relaxing into the cushions. This was me being pedantic. She'd already used the word mate, but she's asking for whatever reason. Who in their right mind made food that fought back? This was me making a comment. This book is surprisingly sweet. I keep smiling. Don't like the footnotes though. Oh, that was something. There was a formatting thing that the author did. So they had footnotes all throughout the story, which reading on an ebook meant that you had to tap it to see the footnote every time, which was kind of neat, but like I said, it's annoying in ebook format. So I didn't really like that. And it was, in spite of the fact that it was very dark themes, the romance itself was very sweet. Because like even with the initial threat of torture, um, not a single one of them seemed to be able to follow through. Not really. And so it was very sweet. Oh, this was me having a Resident Evil moment. So Van is a friend that she'd lost, and in her process of escaping from her family and her past, and when they say bring him out, like I know it's gonna be Van. That's the big secret weapon. Sorry, spoilers, unfortunately, but oh, and yeah, that's fine. But anyway, this I really enjoyed this book. Like I said, dark but surprisingly sweet, and I would highly recommend it. And this is Feared by Monsters by Leigh Kelsey. All right. Lust by Drethi Anis. That's up next. Do I have any notes on that one? I do not see any. Okay. All right. So this was another stepbrother romance, very dark. Um it had a happy ending. There were definitely some times where I wasn't sure it was going to. I didn't know what to think with this one. And I think there's another cover for this too. Uh, Sometimes Goodreads doesn't have the most up to date covers, but kind of mixed feelings about this one. I One of the things I did think was kind of interesting is the fact that they're adopted siblings. So technically they're step family, but because they were adopted by their step parents, they were technically adopted siblings rather than step siblings, and that created an interesting complication in the whole step romance type of scenario. Um, this also had some paranormal elements, even though the main characters are not paranormal. Um, Having to do, it was kind of a demons and angels kind of thing, kind of in the background a little bit. So it was kind of interesting. Dark, definitely. I don't know what I feel about it. All right. This is another a smutty story. Nothing special there. Eva Marks's Primal. Let's see. Eva Marks's Primal. Here you go. Let's see what we got. This one. This one had a little bit of a. This was also a stepbrother romance. Had a little bit of paranormal feel to it, although it was very low key. It was very kind of um a little dark, a little um just demented, I guess, a little bit, but not too bad. Oh, this is me. Too stupid to live moment. It's night out and she's just gonna wander the woods. She's an idiot. I'm sorry. I know my way around navigating in the woods. Just no way that I would just like wander away from the campsite in the middle of the woods with no trails whatsoever. Like, you're just too stupid to live. Oh my god. This is him, and this one here is him wanting to do anal. And instead of using a logical, natural lubricant, you know, the one that she already produces and trying to. No, he uses blood. Like, no, blood is not an appropriate lubricant for that activity. I'm sorry. Um, Blood is sticky, it dries and hardens. That is. And the funny thing is, I think I read a book later on that was specifically pointing out how blood is not a good lubricant, which is just goes to show you I read some weird shit. Oh, I've worked at the bar since I graduated high school. That's literally illegal. Um, there's no way you would get a job in a bar until you're 21. If you can't drink, you can't serve it. I definitely had it when I was under the age of 21, that my options for working in a restaurant were fairly limited because I couldn't serve alcohol. And that one just kind of bugged me. Anyway, I don't have too much to say on that book. Uh Take me, Daddy. I'll take my daddy, I'll take yours. Is that one in here at all? Oh, this one's just a silly, honestly. So this is a book by Jenika Snow. Take me, Daddy. Take my daddy, I'll take yours. Sorry, I keep saying that wrong. This is one where she doesn't like her new stepmom, and at the wedding reception, she ends up shacking up with a hot older guy for the night, and later finding out that it's her step granddad, I guess. And it's just kind of funny. I think this is a shorter one. I thought it was fun. Not much to say there. It's just fun. I was going through a step family phase for a little bit here, as you can probably guess. All right. Do I have anything on Just the Tip? Probably not. That's probably another one that's just smut. Also by Jenika Snow. Just the Tip is this one has an interesting surprise. So it sounds like it would be dark. Um, it's dark and dark erotica, BDSM, etc. Some of the things that are listed here. Interesting surprise though. I was pleasantly surprised by the story. Um, so that one was kind of cool. All right, we have Jacked by so I'm gonna go into this is a 3-book series, and I'm gonna pull up both books that I did actually read some in at the same time. Um, so this series involves a girl who trigger warning uh is contemplating suicide. She's planning it, and she gets interrupted by people who end up chasing her, tying her up, etc. And it becomes clear that the three of them blame her for something that happened to them. And they're here to punish her essentially for it. And I what I liked about the story initially was how well the author did. Now, this is by Layla Fae, FYI, I forgot to mention the author. How well the author weaved the mystery so that you were always intrigued but never really got any details. So you knew that something was going on, you got a feel for what was going on, but you had no actual details to work anything out. And in the first book, it's just literally you get nothing. You know they blame her. You know they blame her. You know it must have been really bad for them to be this upset about it. But you have no idea what's going on. This is something that kind of bugged me. So in the story, the main character, the female main character, has a um what do you call it? Prosthetic arm, which is made out of metal. And it just kind of bugged me that she's looking everywhere for something to break the glass with. Dude, you have a metal arm. Your arm is literally made of metal. You do not have to worry about getting cut. Now, you might not want to damage your prosthetic, but also if you're worried, scared for your life, it's just glass. At worst, it's going to scratch it a little bit. That's it. God. Move on to the next one. So, because these books aren't really, they're pretty much just, there's 3 of them and they're pretty much just locked together. Um, um, and it does kind of go downhill from here. So there's a point, and getting into it, a lot of what it boils down to is her taking fault for things that are not her fault, and the guys blaming her for things that are their fault. So in this case, she's blaming herself, saying it's her fault for being a burden. It's not. She can't control other people's actions. Here, it's in this instance, for example, it's they are explaining why they believe what happened was her fault, but the extent to which it wasn't her fault is so mind-bogglingly obvious. I couldn't do it. This was essentially when I stopped, 57% into the book, approximately. Because they're blaming her for talking about a prosthetic that is blatantly visible. Like, This is something that anyone can see, and all it would take is anyone getting curious, doing a little bit of research, and suddenly they would know that um what was up. And I'm not going to go into detail about why that would be revealing if you do actually want to read it. But what it really boils down to is they did something they shouldn't have done. And instead of doing the smart thing and skipping town, they stayed around. And then instead of doing the smart thing and not doing anything that could potentially um, get them caught, they did do things that could get them caught. And then even after they got caught, they still stuck around. And instead of blaming themselves for all their bad actions, all their stupid decisions across a several year time period, I feel like, um, instead of blaming themselves for any part of this process, they blame her for the one tiny little component that she contributed to their demise. And it's really annoying, and I don't like it. And if I hadn't read the blurb, the book description for the third book, I probably would have kept reading. But knowing that this blaming her for everything is still in the third book, is still a major component in the third book, it kind of killed it for me. Honestly, I couldn't read any further. This one, I should have had that put down midway. Honestly, um, I removed it instead of put it in as put down midway. Yeah, I mean the entire thing is them blaming her for their own actions essentially the entire time. And realistically speaking, once the mystery was really once they finally told the mystery, there was nothing left for me to read. There was nothing left that I cared about because, like I said, they were blaming her for something that wasn't her fault. Yeah, she said things that ended up getting them caught, which was the only thing I could think that she possibly could have done. I couldn't imagine her being a really bad person, but letting information slip that she shouldn't have, that would make sense. Um, but even so, what she said was not something that someone couldn't have figured out on their own. So why are they blaming her for it, you know? But anyway, that was a series that I did not enjoy for that reason. I I was enjoying it at first, but it didn't went really downhill. This one, Ghoul by Layla Fae, is dark, very dark. It says dark and twisted. It's a serial killer romance apparently. Has some paranormal elements. I one could, and I'm wondering, like, I'm looking at my one could have been a coincidence. Two will get you sentenced. Yeah, this one just kind of threw me. The main character has a stepdad who is a big wig in the police, and he's a bastard. He is indirectly responsible for her mom's death, and she hates him, and he is perfectly happy with trying to get her. I don't remember what his motives were, but he is trying to um put a murder on her or something like that. And he's claiming that her blood is there at the scene, but realistically speaking, it's a club. There's DNA everywhere, honestly. And that doesn't tell you, like, as someone who has actually had some experience learning about forensics, that probably in such a compromised crime scene probably would not have been sufficient it would not have been anywhere near sufficient to get someone sentenced, let alone even arrested. Um, Interrogated, maybe. They would probably want to know where she was, how her blood got on this person, um, etc. But the thing is, there's any number of reasons why her blood, her DNA could have been there, and like I said, it's it's everywhere. It's a very contaminated crime scene. Any number of things could there's any number of scenarios that could have flew, and it's just really stupid. It was an interesting story. It was very dark. It was pushing my limits, let me say. Definitely. All right. Next one up, Not Today, Satan by Calliope Stewart. Let's see if we can find that one. Do I not have? No, there it is. Here we go. They're all out of order. I think because I had some issues with uh um the Kindle app recently not actually uh updating my book statuses. So the date finished is not necessarily the date that I actually finished it. This is me nitpicking a detail, but this is a fun little story. It's a short one, it's a novella. It's one where she is an artist and she was asked to do some drawing for a frat party, and she inadvertently ends up summoning Satan. And they, shall we say, have a fun time together. Um there's another book in the series. I haven't read it, but I am intrigued by it. So I'll probably be reading that eventually, but we'll see. This one was fun. It was definitely fun. Um, all right, nothing too much to say there. Tinsel and Tentacles by Kate McDarris. There we go. All right, this one was really cute. Like, this one was adorable. I really like this book, and I ended up reading several other books by this author immediately afterwards. Um, let's take a look at some of my highlights. I never really thought it'd be something I was into, but I haven't been able to stop thinking about it all day. Oh, this was this is one of those miscommunication moments that are really cute because it actually ended up being like somehow I suspect they're not talking about the same thing. Well, they realized as soon as he walked out of the room that they weren't talking about the same thing, but they were kind of like, "Yeah, we'll roll with this." It was kind of cute because it was they realized immediately that there was a miscommunication, and they worked with it, so it wasn't like it wasn't creating a problems type of miscommunication, which I kind of liked. Why does this feel like middle school, I ask? Because there's something a little innocent about Barney. So one of the characters is named Barney, Barnes or something, I think his name is, and he's utterly adorable. Like, he's this, big time multi-platinum rock star type of thing, but he is so cute and adorable. He's such an adorable character. I loved him. I he was wonderful. I just he was wonderful. All right, next one. You're never gonna guess what happened. I swallow a chuckle. Marcy yawns and I shake them both. Santa came last night, Ryder grunts. So did the rest of us. Marcy buries her face in his chest and hides her laugh. That's just a little fun play on words there. But I love plays on words. I really do. But this was like I said, Barney was worth it. Like, just him in this story, he was so cute and adorable and so absolutely worth it. I just loved that. How many? God, I keep going. I feel like I almost need to like speed up a little bit. Stranded with a ravenous shifter. Let's see. I think that was a little bit further back. There you go. I'm not even sure I remember this one, honestly. All right, I'm gonna look at this real quick. Look at the description because I have to get out of this wedding ASAP. My mom arranged it, but oh, I remember this one. Okay. So she was in an arranged marriage. Her mom were kind of like finagled her into, kind of pushed her into it, and she runs away. She's still in her wedding gown, and she's driving in her sister's little beater and drives straight into basically a really nasty blizzard. And she gets saved by a bear shifter who ends up being her mate. And this was something, a little like quirk of hers that I just thought was kind of cute. It's like everything was just like, okay. It was kind of adorable. Next highlight. What's her name? I asked, not really wanting to know. He smiles, he looks at me. Tara. This lucky bitch has the same name as me too. What the hell? She like, so she's like, it's probably partially because of, the state she's in, because she just, ran away from an arranged marriage. She's not probably in the most romantic mood, but she likes him, and she's kind of bummed that he already has a mate, and because she asked if he had a mate, and he's like, yes, I do. And she asked what his name is. It's like, Tar, damn, this woman has the same name as me. Uh, and he's probably thinking like, it's Tara, it's Tara. And then like this is going to the same thing. Like finally, like my mate was out there in danger, and I had to save her. Your mate was in the storm, she says, darting to her feet. Is she still there? Should we go look for her? Oh shit, I'm sorry that I distracted you from finding her. What should we do? It was so cute. Oh my god, it was so cute. I can't believe I forgot about this one. I think there's other books in the series. I just haven't taken a look at them. I might have to go back to those. It might be one of those like multi-author series, so I don't know. But oh my god, this was very cute. I think it was a shorter book, but it was very cute. It was definitely worth a read. Uh, Audited by the Anubis. This is getting more into, where is that? Here it is. There we go. All right. This is me. This was another one of the Wendi Gogh stories. It's in the same series, Monstrous Meet Cutes. And this was me being a bit nitpicky. Why did he show up at her house for a tax audit? Like, he would be showing up to her place of business, not her house. Huh, and this one really got me. Her mom was like, I didn't steal anything. I appropriated it where it belonged. No, she stole money from the government. She stole tax money. It didn't belong to anyone but the government. It's literally embezzlement. And one of the things I thought was kind of strange is um legally, if you're running a business and you're making above a certain amount of money, you're required to make like quarterly tax payments in order to not end up with fees and fines. So this was just kind of weird. Also confusing, like you would have separate accounts, an account specifically for the business. Even if it was technically in your name, it would still be for the business. All of this was just very strange. And some of it gets explained a little bit later when you learn about some of her dependency on her mom for certain things for valid reasons. But it's a very strange situation for a lot of the time. Huh, this was something like mystery novels. I like Agatha Christie. Personally, I prefer the classics. Sherlock Holmes is my favorite. Agatha Christie is one of the classics. I'm sorry. This was also like you start learning that she has trouble with reading, and like I'm like, okay, there is such things as text to speech. Even if she has trouble with reading, she can do that for digital formats. And it's like there's it's a little bit annoying because she's very dyslexic, and she's never had any support in that regard, learning how to read properly. And which is really sad, and part of it is her mom being extremely controlling and manipulative. And it's amazing what she accomplishes in spite of that. And it's kind of interesting, but also it's really sad seeing how that can go when someone does not get the support they need, as I definitely did when I was growing up. And I don't have any trouble with reading, but for someone who didn't get any support growing up, their problems were actively hidden. It's really sad. It really is. But I'm trying not to go too slow in any of these. All right, Bunny. Here's Bunny. This one is cute. Um, so Bunny is this is a Monster Ever After series. Think I've read every book in this series at this point. And yeah, let's see. Here's another one in that series. I don't know if that's the same time, but I'm not going to go into each of these necessarily. They're all good. They're all worth it. I read a bunch of them, honestly. Here's another Kate McDarris, Shot Through the Heart. I'm kind of where is there we go. Doo, doo, doo. So this one was longer, if I remember correctly. This one took a little bit longer to set up, and I definitely enjoyed it. There were some fun parts, like you thought I was dead and it took you 3 days to get over here and check on me. Not the point, fucknut. There's some fun things. Out of curiosity, who's number one? I asked. Dolly Parton. Oh, I nod. Yeah, that makes sense. Me complaining about puce because um it's one of those things that, technically puce has a very specific meaning. It's more of a purple color, purplish red, but at the same time, it doesn't, to a certain extent, when it comes to writing, it doesn't really matter what the actual meaning of a word is if people don't understand what it means. And if a significant percentage of the population thinks it's green, that gives it a very different context, even if your meaning is correct. It's kind of, it doesn't matter if you're correct if people don't think you are, type of thing. But um anyway, moving into the story, this is a story involving Cupid, aka Eros. I think it was Eros, and him finding love in spite of the fact that he feels like he's losing his powers. And it's an romance. It's cute. Like I said, it was a little bit on the long side for this series, I feel like, but I enjoyed it. Let's see. Hoarded by the Dragon. All right. I think that was back here. Here you go. Hoarded by the Dragon. So this one was cute. This involves a woman who tries to steal something from a dragon and ends up getting something else instead. She ends up pregnant and developing a relationship with him, and it's it's in the same Love Bathhouse series, but I think it's not one that's actual a match. It's a little bit more distant from the Love Bathhouse portion of the story. But I liked it. It was cute. Um, had a lot of it had some danger in there. And there was some interesting biology elements to it with regard to the dragon scenario. But I enjoyed it. I definitely did. Let's see. Let's see. A Thanksgiving to Remember, my Kate McDarris. Where is that? There it is. This one was not what I thought it was going to be. I mean, seeing Thanksgiving, I was thinking vampire, and I think it was actually a like a succubus or incubus or something like that. But this one was a relatively, I think it was a short story, or it was short story or a novella. It was relatively short. Um, just a little fun little thing. Nothing special there. Not much to report. As you can see, I went through a little bit of a Layla Fae thing, Orc, Satan, and Grimm. This is a really good series, so I just highly recommend it. Um, More smut, generalized smut, by Carrie Hines. Then we're getting into Siggy Shade. I was doing some Siggy Shade for a while there. All right, I haven't finished this one, so oh, that's probably why it's showing when I first start reading something. So, I feel like Siggy Shade is just fun. The first Siggy Shade I read was one where she basically fucks a tree. So that gives you an idea of the type of story you're dealing with. A little bit of um, technological inaccuracies, like thinking that you can track someone using a microchip. You can't. Um, in order to actually track someone, you need to have a battery. Microchips don't have batteries. They're intended to be like read with a scanner, essentially. So usually you hold a scanner up to a person's skin to be able to read the microchip. Um, the proximity of the scanning device actually activates the microchip. Then there's a part where, I point out the drone probably can't. A drone probably can't get through a lichen. A little bit of confusion here for me. I think overall it was a pretty good story. Bit of a smut, but but also had a romance involved, so that was cool. Next up was Swallowing Water by Siggy Shade. This one was interesting, a little violent, a little more violent than the others. There's some starts that just didn't make any sense to me. Like, humans didn't have any organized cultures 12,000 years ago. I'm sorry, they just didn't. Around that time period, you didn't even have like, I'm not even sure humans were settling down into actual small settlements at that point. So this idea that you had pyramids, Temple of Phoenix, and all sorts of stuff like that 12,000 years ago is just laughable. It really is. And this was me. I was laughing at this. He's saying how his TikTok channel never took off and always stalled at 2 to 300 views. That's the normal amount of views that TikTok gives you for every video. They have to be actively suppressing it to get less than that. This one was interesting. It involves Atlantis and stuff like that, so that was kind of fun. It got me into an Atlantis kick after that. This was a book. This DK Combs. This is a book I've read before. I think I originally read it on Wattpad, and then later on I read it on Kindle. I will say, just to be nitpicky, dolphins can only hold their breath for about 12 minutes, so they wouldn't be very good for mounts, but it's just something that was in the story. In all, I really like the story. I feel like it's maybe not edited very well in the grand scheme of things. Not terribly edited. No, not like unreadable, but it does feel like it's a earlier work type of a feel to it. Um, then I got so we have more Siggy Shade. We've got Dinner with Daddy, Dance with Daddy, Breed for the Beast. Those are all in the same series. So they're a mafia romance series. Um, and those are fun. Uh Jack's Head, I swear to God, this has to be the third book I've read um involving a headless person with a jack-o'-lantern for a head. Not even gonna lie. This one was kind of cool. The ending was really interesting for this one. Let's see if I have any notes on this one, honestly. This was me being weird. And you're no longer entitled to a company car. And I'm like, no company car would be a VW Beetle. I'm sorry. I'm just saying. That's just very strange. Um, but anyway, Jack's Head was really good. I really liked that one. That was fun. And like I said, it had a twist to it I really liked. I don't usually do mafia romance, but I thought those were kind of interesting. Oh wait, no, Burn for Jack by Aiden Pierce. That was the third one that had a jack-o'-lantern head. Um, so this was one. It was a also kind of dark, but pretty cool. It involves the idea of two souls being fated together, and then he comes back year after year hoping to find his long lost witch that he had died for, like hundreds of years ago, and then finally finding her on Halloween night. It was very cute. I liked it. Bleed for Cupid, also by Aiden Pierce. That one was pretty good too. And this is the last one we have for the month that I actually finished. Excuse me. Um, Interesting, involves like her betraying him and then him like huh. Oh, that's Burn for Jack. That's not what I wanted to click. I do not have the when did I finish this one? I'm curious. I have it listed as red. I have no idea. Now I'm curious. I like this one though. This is the edition I'm edit activity. I don't have I don't have dates. Oh, Jesus. Let's put this for January 31st. There we go. Because I'm pretty sure it was last month post. For whatever reason, it didn't give an end date. See, like I said, it's being spazzy lately. This was another really good one. I like this. It was cool how it had a nice twist, had a nice mystery to it on this one. So that one was pretty cool. Um, I think Wicked Lessons I may or may not finish. This one I didn't like the way that the author portrayed BDSM. It kind of bothered me. So I think it's Wicked Lessons is the one that's like that. Yeah, this is the one that had BDSM, and I didn't like how he handled it. It was more abusive than anything else, which is not how BDSM is supposed to be. Let's just say. All right, and I think Inked by the Ithaca is the last one. We're going to go into one more story, A Soul to Keep by Opal Rain, which I think is back here somewhere. Here you go. This is the one story that this is the main story that I didn't finish. I, up until the point where I decided to quit, oh God, come on, Goodreads. I swear to God, Goodreads has been a mess lately. This is the one main story that I didn't finish. I got about 59%. or 60% or something like that before I finally decided to stop reading. And uh, the author's a good author. The story is interesting. The writing is good. I really wanted to keep reading to a certain extent, but it felt a lot longer than it was. And that seemed to be a consistent complaint in the lower stars in this book, this series. Is you go into like the 3, 2, and 1 stars, and a consistent complaint is that it feels really long. And what's funny is after I'd put this down, I picked up the next book I picked up was another book that was supposedly the exact same length, and I plowed through it really fast. So this, for whatever reason, feels a lot longer than it actually is, and it was taking me forever to finish. There was also some things that didn't make sense, like why does he live where he does? It doesn't really make sense. He routinely brings humans here, but he lives somewhere that's not safe for them to live, which is strange. Um, there's little things that, yeah, just don't make sense. Um, it's it's an interesting story, and it had a lot of potential, but it just it felt too long. It just felt too long. I was really looking forward to this one, and it felt really, really, really long. And it was supposed to be about 544 words, I think. If I do 544 pages, but it felt a lot longer than that. And I ended up putting it down midway, and it I think reading more, like looking at other stuff from the same author, would be interesting to see. I do think the author has a lot of potential. This book just felt really long. And I hope that later books that the author writes is a bit more efficient and uh moves the story along in a way that's maybe I don't know like it's there's nothing really specific that I can say that tells me why I felt this way, why it felt so long. I'm not really not sure. I have no idea. Um, but it just did. I don't know. It's odd. But anyway, let's. What would be? No, this is the hard part. What would I say is the favorite book I read? And I don't know that I have one. Like for the last month. There's so many books I read, and there's so many that I think have some solid, uh, definite would recommend. Like, I would definitely recommend Lillian Lark. Really good author. This Monstrous Matches series is really good. I definitely recommend it. Check it out. Absolutely worth the read. Wendi Gogh, I'd never read any of her stuff before. Definitely recommend. Really good. Let's see. Feared by Monsters by Leigh Kelsey. I definitely recommend that. It was really good. Um, if you don't like dark stuff, it may be too much for you. But like I said, the romance itself is actually very sweet and surprisingly so. Um, uh, Kate McDarris. This book was wonderful. Her other books are pretty good. This one I think was my favorite. This was really good. I love Layla Fae. This Monsters Ever After series is fantastic. There's some other books that I've read in the past that were just fantastic. So I would recommend that entire series. Uh, let's see. And Siggy Shade is is leaning into a kind of a low plot romance to a certain extent. There's definitely stuff going on, but it's kind of a smut-tastic, you know? It's definitely a when you're in the right mood type of thing. But I would definitely recommend Siggy Shade if you're into monster romance and low plot type of stuff. It's got some plot. It's just not the primary purpose, I think, a lot of the times. But it's kind of in the middle of the road there, you know. It's not no plot. It's got plot. It's got smut. It's got monsters, interesting biology, and things like that. It's good, you know, in the monster romance ones, obviously. It's some solid stories. But it's certainly not in the same like categories like tinsel and tentacles or something like that. So that's definitely someone I would recommend as well. But anyway, that's all I've got. That was my month in review. That's everything that I read in um January 2023. This took a while. This took 2 hours because I read too much. I probably want to try to make it so that these aren't quite so long in the future. Maybe organize myself a little bit better. But if you enjoyed it, I hope you let me know in the comments if this is something I should do in the future. If there's anything you think I could do better, feel free to let me know. I'm perfectly open to some constructive criticism. And for replay, I'm going to try to put some cards in the screen. I just switched the screen to something that can actually fit some cards on it. And I will see you next time. So my next live stream is going to be tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern for a productivity live stream. And